You've talked about when you examine documents, you got phony documents, you got good documents. You've got real documents that are late, and you got real documents that are early, and there's a big difference in terms of how you interpret that stuff. And you've got archaeological finds that are uncertain, some that are certain, but you don't know how to place them in the historical context. Start us anywhere you want. You were one of the scholars that was picked by National Geographic to examine this new book, or this new gospel that was found, the Gospel of Judas. Tell us when it was found, when it was dated, and what's the main message?
The Gospel of Judas has sparked a lot of debate and a lot of misunderstanding. So I'm glad to be able to speak to that. A codex was discovered in an uncertain location in Egypt about 30 years ago. It went through a very long and circuitous history of trying to be sold and hidden away, and unfortunately not well cared for. And so it deteriorated and was in very poor condition. A few years ago, it finally fell into the hands of competent scientists and researchers, and the text has been partially restored. Some pages are still missing. Well, the scientific testing has indicated that this codex, written in the Coptic language, which, by the way, is Egyptian, using the Greek alphabet, this codex dates to right around 300. There is no question about it. Analysis of the ink, carbon-14 testing of the papyrus itself, it dates to 300. The codex that we have has 66 pages. In those 66 pages are 4 documents. One of them, the longest, is the Gospel of Judas. The contents of this gospel agree with the description that the church father Irenaeus wrote down in his Against Heresies dating to the year 180, where he describes a Gospel of Judas in which Judas is the best of the disciples and actually does what Jesus tells him, which is to hand him over to his enemies for his death. That's what the Gospel of Judas says. And so we infer then that from the data that the original Gospel of Judas was written in Greek probably in the year 150 or 160. That is true. It's a real document. However, I think we need to understand that this mid-2nd century story, this Gospel of Judas, is not a genuine reflection of the historical Jesus and the historical Judas Iscariot. It's an interesting document. It tells us things about 2nd century diversity in Christian thought, heresy, Gnosticism, and so on, but it does not tell us anything about the actual historical Jesus and Judas. That's where we need to be very clear.
Yeah, I think people need to realize it would be like somebody today in our time writing about Abraham Lincoln. Okay, so if you go back to Lincoln around 1850, and we're in 2006, this is approximately where the Gospel of Judas was written. So anything that somebody would say about a person 100, 150 years ago is not going to be a true historical account. Now, it doesn't even claim that, does it?
No, what it claims to be is a secret revelation of private teaching between Jesus and Judas. And the interest is very much on the act of betrayal, and showing that it wasn't really betrayal at all. It was an act of obedience. So it's a fanciful tale, and the reading public and certainly Christians need to understand that the Gospel of Judas most certainly does not overturn the gospel story that